I work deep in the mountains of Kyushu. We are currently building a huge dam. My life isn't great. Thinking of my workplace and my home life moves me to tears sometimes. My mother is bedridden, and my younger brother has some behavioral issues. Both of them live with me in the dorm that the company has provided me. I really want to quit my job, but I can't. I work 11 hours a day and only get 1 day off a week. My monthly salary is 108,000 yen. The dormitory rent is 45,000 a month. Lunch a month is 9,000. There are some strange management administrative fees which are about 20,000 a month. This leaves around 30,000 yen a month to live off, which is about $265. For recreation, I go to an internet cafe about once or twice a month because it's expensive to get there and back. It can't be helped. I have tried to run away and leave this place a few times. The company cannot be legal. It's like modern slavery. There are so many work-related injuries and deaths, it seems like no one cares. Last month I was working with cement. It was my job to grab bags of cement, open them, and send them off on a conveyor belt. It's a horrible job, but even worse when you have to do it for like 11 hours straight. I opened one bag and noticed that there was something inside. A large, thick envelope was mixed in with the cement. The cement comes from a factory about 20 kilometers away. It's in affiliation with the company I work for. I took the envelope out of the cement bag and put it to one side to read after work. When I opened the envelope later, I found a letter and a kind of rag inside. The letter read, "I work in the cement factory. My boyfriend's job was to put the stones in the crusher. On the morning of the 2nd of February, my boyfriend was loading a particularly large stone into the crusher and fell in with it. I tried to grab him, but it was too late. All I got was a piece of his shirt before he disappeared into the machine. The stones in the crusher would turn an awful red color. Then, they were transported along the conveyor belt to be crushed even smaller and heated to be made into this cement. His body, his bones, his blood is in this cement. All I have left is this scrap of his shirt. The production line was stopped due to the accident, and I was sent to the bagging line. I was forced to pack the cement that included his body. This is how I was able to get this letter in here. I'm writing this letter, hoping, praying. Whoever reads this will reply. I need to know where the cement is going and what it's going to be used for. I'm including my email address. I need you to reply. I don't want this cement to be used in building a house for someone like the director of this company. I couldn't forgive that. Please don't use this cement for something like that. He was only 26 years old. He was kind, he had a strong sense of responsibility, and he made me happy. We only started working for this company to make money for our wedding. I kept saying we should quit, because of the pay and the working conditions, but he would always say, "We'll quit soon." I wish I was more forceful. I wish we quit. I had already rented the wedding dress. We were so close. I can't even bury him. There's no body. Our company provided an empty urn. Well, at least I inherited all the things he left behind in our dorm. Please email me. I need to know where this cement is being used, as it will be the closest thing he will ever have to a grave. Whoever you are, please take care of yourself, and please consider getting in touch. I had so many feelings of disgust and sadness. I need to leave this place, but I can't though, because of my mum and my brother. I really wish I could just run away. I'll quit soon though. This isn't a horrifying story, but it's a true and unforgettable, mysterious experience which happened to me about 20 years ago. It was a Saturday, and it was the middle of the night. For some reason, I really wanted to go for a drive. I'm not sure what came over me. I used to go on night drives all the time when I was younger, so I guess I must have been feeling nostalgic. It was past 2 a.m, and I was sat alone in my car. I parked in a huge, empty car park, and I was drinking some juice I bought from a nearby vending machine. It was at this point, another car pulled into the car park. The car park was empty, yet this car pulled right up next to mine. A woman got out and went to buy a drink from the vending machine. She stopped and looked my way. Even though it was dark, I could tell that she was pretty cute. A little younger than me too, I guessed. I thought myself pretty lucky. I called out to her straight away. "Hey, what are you up to? What have you been doing tonight?" From then on, the conversation kind of progressed to the point where I felt comfortable shooting my shot and inviting her for a ride in my car. I planned on driving her to some scenic spot and showing her the night views. I guess my motives weren't completely gentlemanly. If we clicked at that night viewing spot, then I would invite her to a hotel. I was getting carried away with my own fantasies on the drive. I barely noticed that she had begun to cry. I pulled over and asked her what was wrong. She told me that she had gone driving that night with the intention of taking her own life. She told me that there were so many reasons, but wouldn't go into great detail about them. Naturally, I abandoned my desires and focused on comforting her. I tried to remind her of the joy in life. I told her that she was beautiful, and it would be a total waste. And doing what she intended to do didn't resolve anything, it just created more sadness. Now I'm older, I think I could have done a better job. I'm telling you this story as honestly as I can. And when she was crying in my car and talking about all of that, it freaked me out. After a while, she composed herself and thanked me. She said that she would do her best going forward, and we headed back to the car park. On the drive back, the atmosphere in the car was as heavy as lead. I tried to tell her funny anecdotes about me and my friends and my family, to get her spirits up and think about the positives in life. And I saw her smile. We got back to the car, and I told her to really think about things, and I shook her hand. I remember her hand being particularly cold. Well, it was an odd night. I had a lot to consider on the drive home. There were no other cars on the road but mine. It took about an hour to get home, and I went straight to bed. In the morning, I went downstairs and noticed a black envelope sticking out of my door. There was no address written on the front of it. I didn't like the look of it, but I opened it. "Thanks for tonight. The view was beautiful, and I had fun with you." No way! It was from her. I didn't even tell her my address, so I ran outside to see if I could spot her car, but it wasn't nearby. I was a bit freaked out by it. I tossed the letter in the trash and went about my day. Later that day, I went and fished the letter out of the trash again. We definitely didn't mention where we lived. I dumped it back in the trash and took the garbage outside on my way to go food shopping. I was gone for a couple of hours, and by the time I came back, I noticed that there was another black envelope in my mail slot. I began to tremble. Should I just throw it away or open it? I asked myself. I couldn't decide straight away. In the end, curiosity got the better of me, and I opened it. There were only a few words written on the letter this time. "Don't throw my letter away." I was really freaked out. Did I now have a stalker? What did all this mean? I didn't know what to do. I ended up calling a friend. I needed someone to talk to. I told them the whole story, and they wanted to see the letter. Well, my friend didn't really help much. He just kept saying he didn't understand her either. He told me not to throw the letter away. I was scared if I did, I would get more letters, so I agreed with him. I ended up tucking that letter away in a cardboard box with some forgettable things like old gas bills and electric bills. I shoved that box to the back of my closet and ended up forgetting about it. I saw that black envelope again a few years later when I was moving out. The fear that surrounded that letter and that woman had long subsided, so I decided to take the letter with me to the new house. If nothing else, it's a talking point, right? It went to the back of a new closet in the new house, and it was sealed away there, again for some time. So, I guess you're asking what the point of this story is, right? Well, the director of my company embezzled a huge amount of money, and then suddenly disappeared, leaving in his wake a huge amount of loan debt. That treacherous director was the one I spoke to about the black envelope. We were good friends, well, that's what I thought, until I found that he had signed my name as his sponsor against all of this insurmountable debt. Oh, it wasn't just corporate debt. He had borrowed from loan sharks as well. Collection agents came to our company looking for me on a regular basis. And this got out to our customers, and it caused us to lose employees. Customers told other customers, rival companies found out about the debt, and our name was mud. 10 years of hard work had come crashing down all around me. I lost the company that I had helped build, and all that remained was the mountains of debt attached to my name. I hated everything in life, and I saw no point going forward. I would often go on night drives with my dark thoughts, and one night I came to a decision. I didn't want to go on any longer. I got home and I saw something. There was a black envelope sticking out of my mail slot. Memories of that night, long ago, came rushing back to me. There was no fear, just a sense of understanding. Without hesitation, I opened the letter. I want to remind you of the joy of life. You are beautiful, and it would be a total waste. Doing what you intend to do isn't going to resolve anything except create more sadness. I was completely overwhelmed. I broke down and I cried. Tears flowed and flowed. She had remembered the exact words I had said to her. That letter is my prized possession. I live in poverty these days, but with positivity. I don't know who she is, or where she is, or even if she's real or some spirit guide, but I owe a lot to her, and I just hope this story helps whoever needed to hear it. When I was in junior high school, chainmail was really popular at my school. My experience began when I came back to the classroom after a PE session, and I noticed something between the pages of my textbook on my desk. It was a thick, old, tea-stained looking envelope. The words on the front of the envelope read, "Open this alone." I was really excited, and I stuffed it into my school bag. I thought that it could be a love letter, so I took it home with me. That night after dinner, I opened the letter in my bedroom alone. The contents of that letter were entirely unexpected. It read, "This is a photo of a student who was bullied to the point where they decided to end it all by hanging. The student has vowed revenge and laid a powerful curse on those who bullied him and the teacher who looked the other way. In fact, that same curse applies to anyone who reads this letter and looks the other way. Nothing but death awaits those who wronged the innocent student who lost his life. Those who find this letter are asked to memorialize the student by lighting an incense stick and praying for his spirit. When the incense burns to ashes, you must offer an apology to the boy and pray for his ascent into heaven, so that his vengeful spirit can be calmed. When this has been done, you must sign this letter and then pass it on to another student who hasn't signed, who no one must notice. You can tell your teachers and your parents, but I cannot guarantee that the spirit of the boy won't be angry, or the curse will be lifted if you do so." I looked at the names on the separate piece of paper inside the envelope. About half of the class's names were written there. The name at the bottom of the list belonged to a girl in the class who barely said a word. The pattern of the names on the list went girl, boy, etc., which is why I was probably chosen by her to be next. There was something else in the envelope. I fished it out. It was a photo, and when I brought it to my eye line, I felt chills race all over my body. It was a dirty old Polaroid. A boy had loads of cotton wool stuffed up his nose. Some of it was white, but the rest was a dirty, earthy, brownish color. His eyes were open but cloudy and pale. He was clearly deceased. Seeing this powerful, frightening image, moved me, and I was horrified. I grabbed an incense stick from the guest room and lit it there, in my bedroom, and warned the poor boy away from the eyes of my family. I was really frightened by that letter, so I did as it commanded and hid it between the pages of a textbook on a girl in my class's desk. I felt a sense of relief to be rid of that awful thing. I noted that one of the names on the list in the letter was the name of my best friend. I thought that it would be safe to discuss the letter with him since he had already seen it. So I went over to him and asked, "Hey, what did you make of that Polaroid? Looked like it was taken on the mortician's slab or something. It was creepy, right?" I wasn't prepared for his answer. "Polaroid? There wasn't a Polaroid. What are you talking about, man?" A month later, the letter had made its way into another class. It became the talk of the playground. Some kids said that they had seen a Polaroid, and others said that they hadn't. And oddly enough, some of the students said that the photo and the letter was about a girl, not a boy. The strange thing was that the girl said it was about a girl, and the boy said it was about a boy. Even in the photos. When I think back on it, the kid in the picture looked kind of like me. This was also remarked by some of the other students. They said that the kid in the picture looked kind of like them. It was never resolved, but it was really weird. I wish I kept that letter to show you. This happened when I was in high school. I wasn't in any after-school clubs and I didn't do any sports, so every day, when class was over, I would just go home. I went to my locker as usual to get my things and I noticed that it was already open and something was in there. It was a keychain of a thumb-sized wooden frog. It was like something a girl would have attached to their bag or their pencil case. Of course it wasn't mine. I don't even remember anyone in my friend circle having this thing. I didn't know what it was doing in my locker. It was a bit of a mystery. I didn't think much about it. I just put it in my pocket and went home. The next morning, something else happened. I found a letter in my locker. The envelope was bright pink with a cherry blossom tree on it. I couldn't open it with everyone all around me, so I stuffed it into my pocket and I headed to class. That letter was all I could think about in class. I wondered which girl in my class had sent it, or if it was from someone in another class. Would I be going on a date soon? I was daydreaming. The hours seemed to be flying by. Before I knew it, it was lunchtime. I rushed off to the bathroom to read the letter in privacy. I guessed that I was so excited that I wasn't looking where I was going because I bumped into someone on the way to the bathroom. I fell down on my behind and the letter slipped out of my pocket. Some of my classmates spotted it. There was a scuffle, screams of, "I saw it first," mixed in with my protests. It was like a scene out of some teen movie. They had already decided that it was a love letter. One kid ripped open the envelope and opened the letter. He suddenly bent over to throw up. Everyone looked concerned, but I thought he was just making fun of me. Some kids who had seen the letter called over to the teacher, and he came rushing over. He asked what had happened, and one kid explained that the kid who stole the letter from me was throwing up in the bathroom. The teacher picked up the letter off the floor and opened it with a grimace. He showed it to us and said, in an angry yet fearful tone, "Who made this?" That was the first time that I saw the letter. Right in the middle was a drawing of a boy, but that wasn't the issue. To the right of the drawing of the boy was the remains of a cockroach. It had been flattened and arranged to look like a pressed flower. It was disgusting. Since the letter was addressed to me, I was sent to the staff room, and I was asked a host of questions that I couldn't understand or answer. All I could tell them was that I got the letter this morning. Because they had no clue who the letter came from, the incident was eventually forgotten. That alone could be deemed as just a nasty prank, right? But that wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. Wherever I went, the harassment continued. It wasn't limited to school. It was on the way to school. It was even at home. For example, my bedroom is on the second floor of my house, and there is a small veranda outside it. A dead animal in a paper bag was hurled onto that veranda one night. It was really disturbing. There were worse things that I don't want to get into as well. I developed a neurosis about going outside, and I guess you could say I became somewhat agoraphobic. Even the thought of going to school made me feel incredibly nervous. I developed a fever and flu-like symptoms, a genuine repulsive physical reaction to the thought of going out into the open wide world, and therefore I had to stay at home. My parents were both working, so I was home alone, which didn't help. Things got worse and worse. One day, while I was off school, I felt really ill. It didn't feel like the usual fear I had about going to school. I felt so sick. My mum said she would be back at lunchtime to check on me, but to be honest, I had no idea if she came back or she didn't. Later in the afternoon, I swear to God, someone or something was in that house with me. All the sounds they made indicated that they weren't used to a house layout. I staggered to my feet in the hope that it was my mum, and my ears were just playing tricks on me. I remember being incredibly short of breath and feeling the sweat drop from my brow. The next thing I remember is waking up and hearing my parents speaking about me. They said that my pajamas were drenched in sweat and my skin was terribly pale. In that moment, I was certain that I was going to fade away, perhaps for good. I was scared, but I was aware. Slowly, I regained some strength, and the mental fog lifted. I explained what had happened as best as I could. I don't know what sense it made to anyone besides me. I just remember crying a lot, like it was a confession, like I had been hiding something and lying to my parents, failing to realize that this had been imposed upon me, rather than it being a choice of my own. I thought that I would be sent to the nut house or something, but I was completely shocked when my mother told me that she was going to contact a spiritual medium. My mum has always been spiritually inclined. She said she had a friend who knew someone who would help. 2 days later, a shaman arrived at our family home. I didn't say a word to the guy. He just entered my room and began rooting around my chest of drawers. I thought he was a weirdo, then as if he had sensed what I had thought, he looked my way. He held his hand high as if to show me something, and there, dangling from his hand, was the frog keychain that I had pocketed. He claimed the object to be cursed. He said that he would take it away and dispose of it. He told me that I would be okay, and things would get better. I could barely understand what was happening, but I caught sight of myself in a mirror, and I just broke down crying. My parents had been protecting me by hiding the mirrors, but I was in a very bad way. One question had remained, of course. If I was to believe that all of this was some sort of curse, then who laid that curse on me? This shaman told me that whoever cursed me would be noticeable to me when I saw them next. He said that whoever did this to me would look as pale and dejected as I had done. It was then that I realized why he showed me my own reflection in the mirror. I doubted that theory, but I shouldn't have. Thankfully, after all that, I was fine, like miraculously fine. I was so eager to get back to school. When I walked into my first period, the whole class looked disturbingly pale and sick. I turned around and left. I haven't looked back since. I don't know why, but they must have all played a part in my decline. I'm just glad to be away from them.